2. Yeah, okay, good morning and welcome to yet another online tutorial on microwave and antennas. So we were discussing about module 4, right? So module 4, first part was about antenna arrays. We were discussing about arrays of point sources, and we discussed about arrays of say point sources of isotropic point sources and non-isotropic point sources, like that is pattern multiplication. Then we generally generalize the case to arrays of n-isotropic point source or uniform linear arrays. That's what we had seen in last class, and in the previous class we have seen some of the applications of this antenna arrays or antenna in modern wireless communication system, namely 5G, 6G, and all. So we discussed MIMO, beamforming, like all those steps. Right. So today we'll move on to part 2 of module 4, that is about electric dipoles and thin linear antennas. Right. So module 4 is about electric dipoles, right? That is, and thin linear antennas. So both are actually what same, we can use interchangeably. So we'll start the discussion of this module 4 with short electric dipole. So short electric dipole is a very short conductor, right? Very short conductor, right? See, if you have a transmission line like this, right, a balanced transmission line opened up, right, which has some length L, that is called a very short dipole if the length is much less compared to the operating wavelength. If the length is much less, very less compared to operating wavelength, that is called actually what? Short electric dipole. So practically, short electric dipole as such does not have any applications, but it's always good to start our discussion of thin linear antenna with short electric dipoles. Why? Because any practical long wire antennas can be considered as actually what? Consisting of series of short electric dipoles, right? You can consider any practical long wire antenna to be actually what? A series of short electric dipoles. So that's why the discussion of short electric dipoles, it's very, very important. That's why, right. So what we'll be doing is we'll discuss the short electric dipole in detail, right? We'll obtain the general field expression of short electric dipole and also radiation resistance of short electric dipole. Once you are comfortable with that, you can straight away extend that idea to what? A thin linear antenna. Thin linear antenna is actually what? L will be comparable to lambda, or it can be lambda by 2 or lambda by 4 or lambda 3, lambda by 2, whatever it is. So you can straight away extend this concept of short electric dipole to any other thin linear antenna. So discussion of short electric dipole is very, very, very important. And you can see there are hardly 4 topics in this particular part, and from all 4 topics you can expect a question, and these are very easy, right? Of course, the prerequisite is electromagnetic waves, which you have already learned in last time, but whatever is required I'll just touch upon. And as this involves a little bit of derivation and all those steps, I'll move a bit slow, right, so that you will be able to learn this as and when the class happens. Along with me itself you learn, right? You don't keep it for later, right? As and when I'm discussing it in class, I'm requesting you to learn. So we'll start with short electric dipoles, then we'll move on to thin linear antenna. We won't be deriving the field expression as such for thin linear antenna, but instead of that, what I'll tell is for a short electric dipole, along the length of dipole, current as a constant, uniform current distribution I'll tell. But whereas if it is thin linear antenna, current distribution will be sinusoidal. So I will be discussing only about the sinusoidal current distribution, how the current is distributed as a function of length. And then later on, what you can do is you can consider it as very small antennas, and you can apply the same thing what we have done for short electric dipole. So we won't be discussing thin linear antenna in detail, and hardly from thin linear antenna they used to ask either to draw the current distribution or write the expression for current distribution and draw the field pattern. Drawing the field pattern, right, it's not that difficult, right? By seeing the current distribution itself, I'll teach you how to draw the field pattern. So, and finally, we'll obtain the radiation resistance of lambda by 2. See, these are the 4 important topics of this particular part of this module, and all the 4 topics are very, 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 very important, right? So we'll start with short electric dipole, right? So initially I'll tell you what is a short electric dipole. So assume you have a source, right, and a transmission line, a balanced transmission line which is excited using this source, right? And say the current is, I can call current as I is equal to I naught e power j omega t. It's a time varying harmonic, right? Where omega is actually what? Omega is 2 pi f, the radial frequency, right? This transmission line, it's a balanced transmission line, balanced transmission line, right? And if this transmission line is opened up, if this transmission line is opened up to form a structure like this, right? If this transmission line is opened up to form a structure like this, the length will be L, and you can see it has a very a small thickness, negligible thickness. That thickness is D, right? So this is a this is called actually what, a dipole antenna. So I'll tell you why this is called a dipole antenna initially itself, right? We have seen if the length is L is equal to lambda by 2, right, where lambda is the operating wavelength, L is equal to lambda by 2, that's called a half wave dipole, right? If L is equal to lambda by 4, that is actually what, quarter wave. So instead of having two sections up and down, if you have only upper part and this lower part is grounded, that is actually called monopole, right? So why even this is called dipole, right? The term dipole. So can you tell me what actually dipole in electronics or electrical engineering or electronics, as far as electronics is concerned or physics is concerned, what is a dipole? Can anyone tell me what is that? Yeah, what is a dipole? You might have studied it in smaller classes itself. Dipole is nothing but two equal and opposite charges separated by a distance, right? Am I correct? That's what you might have learned. Dipole is a two equal and opposite charges separated by a distance, right? So, like there will be two charges, say plus Q and minus Q, separated by a distance, right? That is actually a dipole. So what we can do is we can equivalently represent this short electric dipole like this. This is the equivalent representation of a short electric dipole. So before that, I'll just tell you how this structure can radiate, how the structure actually is radiating, right? Suppose the current, right? So it's a time varying current, a sinusoid, right? So current will have positive and negative half cycle. What do you mean by positive half cycle? Say during positive half cycle, you can assume this, if there is a transmission line like this, if there is a transmission line like this, right, there is a load or something, right? So during positive half cycle, current will flow in this direction. During positive half cycle, current will flow through this, right? Then it will return through the lower path, right? So current flow, you can assume it as actually what, flow of a positive charge. It's in the direction of flow of a positive charge, right? If current is flowing like this, you can assume actually what, a positive charge is flowing like this. Similarly, current is flowing in the opposite direction, you can assume actually what, a negative charge is flowing in this direction, or positive charge is moving, negative charge is moving in this direction, right? So in the upper conductor, there will be current from left to right, and in the lower conductor, there will be current from right to left. So I can assume actually what, it has a dipole actually. So if you induce a positive charge on this upper conductor, right? If you induce a positive charge on this upper conductor, a equal but opposite negative charge you can assume to be induced in the lower conductor, right? You have studied Gauss theorem and all, right? Gauss law, Gauss theorem, right? So what will happen? There will be an electric field from positive to negative. So this is in the case of a positive half cycle. What will happen in the negative half cycle? In negative half cycle, the current direction will reverse, right? Negative half cycle, the current direction will reverse, right? From current will be flowing like this in negative half cycle. Current will be flowing like this. So the charge also, right? So you can assume a negative charge is induced on upper line and positive charge is induced on lower line. The electric field direction will be like this. So as it is time varying, this plus and minus will alternate, right? So this is the case of a transmission line, right? This is the case of a transmission line. So now you just assume I have a transmission line, right? And I'm connecting a capacitor as a load, right? I'm connecting a small capacitor as a load, right? See, assume the plate of the capacitor is circular, disc-shaped capacitor, right? So a capacitor like this, a circular disc-shaped capacitor I have connected at the load. Then what I am doing is, right, I'm giving a time varying current I, where I is equal to I naught e power j omega t or whatever, right? And if I am opening it up, right, if I am opening it up, this part I am opening and keeping like this, and this part I am opening and keeping like this, right? So if I can separate two plates of a capacitor, right? So that's what I'm assuming, right? So 1 second, right? So I have a balanced transmission line. I'll show the transmission line as very, right? Then there is, right? Then you have a structure like this, a circular disc on top, and a circular disc on bottom, right? So this is right, and if it has a length L, right, and this thickness is D, right, and if it meets a condition, L is much less compared to lambda and D is much less compared to the length, right? And if these plates, capacitive plates, it offers actually what these plates, circular discs, I can call, right? Circular discs on top, they provide capacitive loading, right? They provide we don't have to discuss different types of loading in detail, that is beyond the scope of our syllabus, but for the time being, if you are able to accept this, right, this provide a capacitive loading. I'll tell you right what actually is capacitive loading, how it affects, right? So if you assume it's capacitive loading, I can assume the current distribution over this, say the current is I, that current will be uniform, right? Current distribution will be uniform along the length of this dipole, right? Why? Because its length is very small, right? As L is very small, as length is very small, right? So current distribution is uniform along length, right? But if it was a very long conductor, right, you could have assumed there will be the current distribution would have been sinusoid along the length, right? But here, as the length is very small, I can assume the current distribution is uniform along the length, and also, right, we can one second, right? So current distribution is uniform, and this provides a capacitive loading, which means this capacitors are also not radiating, we can assume, right? We can assume these capacitive plates, N plates are not radiating. And also this transmission line is also not radiating. These N plates are not radiating, and transmission line is also not radiating. We can assume like that, right? So this plates, it assures a capacitive loading. That is what is the advantage of having this capacitive and loading. And also what we can do is we can approximate, or we can equivalently represent it as, right? Equivalently we can represent it as, right? You can assume it as actually what small capacitor, where charges will be concentrated on these capacitor plates. So I can equivalently represent it as an electric dipole, right, with charge plus Q and minus Q, right? Plus Q and minus Q separated by a length L, right? And this is actually what very thin conductor. So I can equivalently represent this dipole like this, right? I can equivalently represent this dipole like this. And for analysis, we'll be using this. Approximation. So we can consider very short electric conductor as a electric dipole like this, with charges concentrated on both ends. Actually, from a long conductor, I've cut only a small part, L, which is much less compared to lambda. That is what is shown here, and that can be equivalently represented using this dipole, right? Using a dipole. So now I'll tell you, right, the definition. So normally for 2 marks and all, they used to ask what is a short electric dipole. Short electric dipole is a very small conductor, very small conducting wire, which is of length L, much less compared to lambda, and thickness D, much less compared to say L, and it has uniform current distribution. So the current at each and every point on this conductor will be same at any given time. But with respect to time, it will change. But any given time, if you observe the current along the length, it will be a constant. Why? Because it's a very small length. It's a very small length which we are considering. Even though over a very large length, current will vary sinusoidally. If you consider a very small length, over this, you can assume the current is a constant. So it has uniform current distribution over length, uniform current distribution. Such a radiator is called actually what? Short electric dipole. This is the definition of short electric dipole. And some assumptions are this transmission line it's fed using a balanced transmission line. It's fed using a balanced transmission line, and the current distribution is uniform, and there are end plates, circular discs at the end, which is providing capacitive loading, right? Circular discs at the end which provides capacitive loading, and because of that the current distribution is uniform, and we are assuming the capacitive plates are also not radiating. This is a short electric dipole. So what we need to do is we need to see how it will radiate, how this electric dipole will radiate. But before that, right, how it as such will radiate, during positive half cycle, right, the current is flowing in this direction, so you can assume, right, the electric field will be in this direction, right? So what will happen if this charge is moving and reaching here, right? These, you can assume this negative and positive charges are actually what oscillating through this. It will, positive charge will move up, then come down, then again move up, then come down. So you can assume it as actually what, as an oscillating electric dipole. The short conducting dipole, you can assume it as an oscillating electric dipole. So which means at some point, actually what, maybe I'm not sure, right? At some point, right, this positive charge and negative charge, you can assume it's separated maximum. So the electric field lines, it will be actually what, from positive to negative, you can assume like this. But then this positive charge will be moving down, negative charge will be actually what, moving up. So this is actually our balanced transmission line. So what will happen, they'll come closer. So at time instance T1, electric field is like this. So then they'll actually what, move closer. So they'll be moving closer. This is plus and this is minus. So what will, already field lines were actually what, starting from here and ending here. But now as they are moving closer, the field lines will actually what, will be like this. Then at some point they may actually what, cross each other. At some point they may cross each other. That time field lines will start here and it will end here. So it will form a loop. Then what will happen? Negative charge will be up and positive charge will be down. I'm showing it for different dimensions, T1, T2, T3, right? So then the field, so what will happen is then this field line, it's direct, which was directed like this, it will detach from it, right? It will detach, right? So the field, this was directed like this, right? This field was directed like this. So this field was directed like this. Then the next field line will start, right? The next field line will start, right? That's why, if you remember, when I showed you, say, the radiation from a dipole, I had shown like this. So initial E is like this. Then I had shown a loop of electric field like this, right? Then again another loop of electric field like this. That's why in any textbook, if you see the pictorial representation of radiating electric field will be like this, and magnetic field will be actually what, it will be around it. Magnetic field will be around it. When you have a conductor, around that you will have magnetic field. So this is how, right, it actually radiates. So you can assume it as an oscillating electric dipole. So we don't have to discuss these things in detail, right? So this discussion, Hertzian dipole, the radiation mechanism of Hertzian dipole, it's not a part of your syllabus, but for you to appreciate how the remaining part will work, how this structure can radiate, I'm just showing. You can assume it as an oscillating. I've shown only what, two charge elements. There will be infinite such charge elements, so there will be field lines emanating from that. So it's not actually what, positive charge moving from left to right. What we have is, if it is a conductor, there will be only electrons which is moving, but we can assume electron moving from right to left as positive charge moving from left to right. Right, that's it. So this is how it will radiate. So I've given you, I've told you what is a short electric dipole, right? L is much less than lambda, D is much less than L, and to provide capacitive loading, we have provided circular disc. Please study along with me itself, okay? Right, we have provided circular disc, and this capacitive loading ensures the current distribution is uniform, and because of this, we can equivalently represent it as a dipole, right? A charge plus Q and minus Q separated by some distance, right? So this dipole, maybe I'll now I'll just show the dipole, short electric dipole. I'm not showing the field, right? It has length L and current distribution is I, right? And it can be equivalently represented as a dipole, right? Plus Q and minus Q. It can be equivalently represented as plus Q and minus Q, and the current is actually what, I, right? And the excitation is current I can be written as I is equal to I naught e power j omega t. I can be written as I is equal to I naught e power j omega t. And how this I and Q are related? So this I, you know, it will be equal to dq by dt. In fact, it should be minus dq by dt. So we are conveniently neglecting that minus part. It's time rate of change of charge flow, right? So I is related as I is equal to dq by dt, and this I is equal to I naught e power j omega t. So this is the current phasor, and this is how it's related to its equivalent representation. I hope this much is clear, right? Is there any doubt so far? Any doubt in topics which I discussed so far? It's very simple. I've just told you what is a short electric dipole and how can I represent it equivalently, and what will be the current phasor expression, and how this current phasor is related to the charge. That much, if you are able to understand, that would be more than sufficient, right? So shall I move ahead now? All of you are here. I just want to make sure all are here. Just say hi to me, right? I'm feeling lonely here. I've come to college, right? So it's a sort of completely vacant. Much people are not around. Right. Can you all say me a hi? I just want to make sure all are with me. Yes, now. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. So now we'll move ahead. So please study this along with me itself. It's a sure question, even for university exam. So if you are done with your preparation, then later on you can relax. Anyhow, by the time of your exam, I think Money Heist season 5 will be coming. So a day before microwave exam, you can sit and watch Money Heist if you study it now. Would that be fine? Right. So don't tell I have told you to sit and watch Money Heist a day before exam. You have to prepare. Right. That's it. So okay, fine. So now we move on to the next part. So now we need to find the field expression. Right. I need to find general field expression of short dipole. This is what we have to derive, right? When I say general, right, you know, a field around an antenna can be divided into actually what near field and far field, right? So we are not distinguishing between near field and far field. General expression, wherever at any point, I should be able to come up with an expression for electric field and magnetic field as a function of r, theta, and phi, right? Electric field and the magnetic field as a function of r, theta, and phi, right? And we don't know which components, if right, will be there for electric field and magnetic field. So this is what initially I'll be coming up with a general expression which will be applicable for near and far field, but later on we'll modify it for actually what the far field expression. So in general expression, if I substitute r tend to infinity, or r is much large compared to L or something, right? So then I can obtain the far field expression. So that's what we'll be doing. But before even I can go ahead and find out the field expression due to the short electric dipole, I should place it in some convenient position in my coordinate system. For that, I'll be using spherical coordinate, right? I'll be using spherical coordinate. So I'm just, for reference, I'll be drawing actually what these are my right Cartesian axis. This is X, this is Y, and this is Z, right? So I'm considering spherical coordinate. So what I'll be doing is I'll be placing my antenna along Z axis, right? I'll be placing my antenna along Z axis, right? Along Z axis with center at origin. So that is the first thing. I'm placing antenna along Z axis with center at origin. That's how we are placing, with center at origin. And that's how we are placing this antenna. And what I need to do is I need to find the field at some general point P. Right? I need to find field at some general point P in spherical coordinate. It will be r, theta, phi. Right? So I just want you to recollect what was r, theta, phi is in the spherical coordinate. I'll of course show that, right? So now I'll consider, right, a sphere of radius r, maybe a 1/8 of a sphere of radius r, right? So I'm considering a sphere of radius r, right? On top of that, my point will be on top of that, right? So you know, z, positive z axis is theta equal to 0, and theta will be changing like this, right? As you move away from this, right, theta will be increasing. So xy plane is theta equal to 90 degree, and negative z-axis or south pole is actually what? Theta equal to 180 degree. You know, theta is changing like that. And similarly, right, so phi, positive x-axis is phi equal to anti-clockwise sense or move towards positive y, right? Phi will be increasing like this. Phi will be increasing like this. You know, phi will be increasing like this. So I can represent this as a point for a given theta and phi, and this r will be, you can see, I'll take another ring color. Sorry. So if I join this point and origin, this distance will be equal to r, right? You know, the radial distance of the point from origin. So this point, this is our point. This is my point P, right? This is my point P, right? This P can be represented as r theta comma phi. Now I'm just making you to recollect what are this r, theta, and phi. So this is r, and theta is the angle of radial vector measured from, say, positive z-axis. So this angle is theta, right? This angle is theta, you know that, right? Then if you project this radial vector onto this xy plane, if you project this radial vector onto this xy plane, right, and the angle which this projection makes with positive x-axis, that is nothing but what? Phi, right? So these are r, theta, and phi. You're comfortable with that, and you know theta will be changing in this particular direction, right? And phi will be changing in this direction, and the limits of theta are from 0 to pi and phi from 0 to 2 pi, right? You know that. And over a sphere, r is a constant. So this, I need to find the field expression, electric field at the point P. So electric field, of course, is a vector. So I'm assuming it will have, right? So I can represent the electric field like vector E is equal to, it will have r component. I don't know which other components are there. ER, AR cap plus E theta, A theta cap plus E phi, A phi cap, right? I'm assuming electric field and it to be a vector, right? It has r, theta, and phi component. Later on we'll see, right, it won't have any phi component, it will have only r and theta component. And similarly, magnetic field also I should represent like this. H will be HR AR cap plus H theta A theta cap plus H phi A phi cap. And once we derive the expression, you will be able to see this r and theta component will not be there for magnetic field. It will have only phi component, right? But we'll see what happens. So I need you to visualize what will be the direction of ER, E theta, and E phi. So direction of ER will be direction in which r is increasing, right? Sorry, direction of ER will be direction in which r is. You can see r is increasing like this. So ER will be along this, the direction of AR cap, right? So this will be ER or ER AR cap, R component, right? And E theta will be, you can see theta is increasing like this, right? As I move from extreme south, north to south, right, over a sphere, theta is increasing along, actually what, along, if you're moving along the longitude in a globe, right? That's how theta will increase. So the theta component is actually what? It is along the direction of change in theta. So it will be tangential to this longitude, right? It will be tangential to this. I'm showing it like this. So this is, I've drawn it a little bit big so that you'll be able to see it. That's it, right? So it is E theta, A theta cap. So it is the direction of, in the direction of A theta cap. And phi, you can see it's moving, it's increasing along latitude, right? So phi will be increasing along latitude, right? So the direction of E phi will be, right, tangential to that circle, right? So E phi will be tangential to that, so that is E phi. So this is E phi, A phi cap. So this is what we have to find, right? What is the electric field expression, and similarly what is the magnetic field expression, right? So for that, I've considered a short electric dipole of length L placed at origin with center, placed along z-axis with center at origin, right? And of course it has a thickness D, which is much less compared to the diameter of this, is much less compared to the length, and length is much less compared to lambda. That's why we can call it short electric dipole. And if you can have a dipole where length is tending to 0, if length is almost vanishingly small, then we can call it as actually what? Infinitesimal dipole. So infinitesimal dipole. Infinitesimal dipole. If the length is almost 0. So here we are assuming it has got some length L, right? So this is the system which we'll be considering for to derive our expression, right? Now the problem is if you consider, right, any point at this point P is at a distance of R from the source, and we are exciting it with some current I is equal to I naught e power j omega t. It's a time harmonic current. It's a sinusoidal current variation. Right? It's a time harmonic with some radial frequency omega is equal to 2 pi f. Right? So the problem is when we are observing the radiation or effect at some distance r, right? That effect may not be due to the cause in this antenna at the same time instance, right? If you are finding electric field at some distance r at an given t, right, that may not be due to actually what current or voltage on this conductor at the same time instant, but it will be due to actually what current or voltage. So I'll write it will be due to current in this conductor at some instance t minus tp, where this tp is actually what the propagation time. So for instance, if electric field is produced at this antenna, for it to travel from this antenna to a distance r, it will take some finite propagation time. It's not traveling with infinite velocity. If we assume the medium around this antenna is free space or air or vacuum or whatever, the velocity with which the radiation propagates will be equal to c, that is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. You know that, right? 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second, and that will be equal to actually what? F lambda. If f is the frequency of electromagnetic wave and lambda is the wavelength, right? F lambda will be 3 into 10 power 8, or I can write it 1 by root of, if it is any other medium, I can write it as actually what? 1 by root of mu epsilon, where mu will be the permeability of the medium and epsilon is the permittivity of the medium. So that will be the velocity. So we are assuming the medium around our antenna is free space. Normally, a communication medium is free space only or air only. We don't have to bother about anything else, right? So it propagates with that velocity. So this Tp is nothing but what? The time taken by this radiation, or time taken by this effect to travel a distance r. So what will be that time? What will be that time? So that Tp will be equal to, if the distance to be covered is r and the velocity is c, that Tp will be equal to r by c seconds, right? So this is called propagation time or retardation time. So what I should do is, in order to accommodate this retardation effect, so this is called retardation effect. You might have studied this about retarded potential and all in electromagnetic waves, right? So this is called retardation effect, right? So in order to accommodate this retardation effect in the field which we'll be considering, right? Otherwise, if we don't consider the retardation effect, we are indirectly saying the radiation travels with infinite velocity. That is not happening. It has some finite velocity. So if we have to accommodate that, so I should, instead of current I should write actually what? Retarded current. So I'll write the retarded current. So I'll call this equation number 1, and equation number 2 will be of that of retarded current. So you know how to represent retarded quantities. Retarded current I should write it in a square bracket. That is the convention. If it is a retarded quantity, I should write within a square bracket. So that will be I naught e power j omega. What I should do is I should replace t with t minus r by c. It's not happening instantaneously, but after some time instance r by c. So I should replace the t in this expression with t minus r by c, where this r by c is called the propagation time, right? So this is a retarded current. So I have to use this retarded current to do the analysis. So this is equation number 2. Right. Now maybe we should discuss a little bit more about this, retarded current. So if I expand this, right, I can write I is equal to, retarded current is equal to I naught, that is the maximum peak amplitude of the current, e power j omega t. So this is nothing but what? My I itself, right? E power j omega t times, it is equal to e power j omega r by c, e power j omega r by c. So this omega r by c I can write here, omega r by c I can write it as 2 pi f times r by c. Right? This r by c is nothing but what? Tp, right? I can write r by c to be equal to TP, the propagation time, and F can be written as 1 by time period, right? Frequency is 1 by time period. You all know that, right? So what I can write here, this omega R by C is nothing but, the quantity is nothing but 2 pi times TP by T, right? 2 pi times TP by T, right? But this 2 pi, if you are writing it, it's in radian. If you are writing it in degree, you can write it as 360 degree into TP by T. What idea it gives, right? Capital T, that is time period. It is a time taken for a time harmonic to change its phase by an amount 2 pi radian or 360 degree, right? So if the propagation time is TP, if the propagation time is TP, right? So you are seeing TP by T is nothing but what you are seeing, how many such time periods are there in this propagation time. For instance, TP is equal to 1.3 T, right? Suppose TP is equal to 1.3 T. What does that mean? So there is one complete time period plus a fraction 0.3 of time period, right? If there is one complete time period, by that time a 360 degree phase rotation might have happened. But with this 0.3 T, how much phase rotation is happening? So it actually gives you the corresponding phase change because of this time delay, right? You are mapping time delay to phase change. That's omega R by C. It is actually what, 2 pi into TP by capital T. It actually gives you the phase change corresponding to the propagation time. That is one way of writing that. So you can write it like I times e power j 2 pi times TP by T. This is one way, right? Or another way, if you think in terms of propagating wave, right? If you think in terms of propagating wave, so if you're considering a distance r, the wave, if you take a snapshot at any given time, right? So if you take a snapshot at any given time, right? So the wave will be like this. And if you take a snapshot at any given time, the wave will be like this. And you know, the wavelength is actually what? The distance the wave has to cover for it to undergo a phase change of 360 degree, right? So this omega R by C also can be written as, it is 2 pi F times R by C. You know, the C is equal to F lambda, right? Velocity is frequency times wavelength. So the C by F will be actually what? Lambda. So I can write it as 2 pi by lambda times R. And you know, 2 pi by lambda, it is nothing but what? Beta times R, right? It is beta times R. That's how normally we write omega T minus beta Z, right? Any propagating wave, it will be a function of time as well as space. So the argument of the harmonic function, cosine or sine or e power j omega, that e power j will be omega T minus beta Z. So this beta is actually what? The phase change corresponding to a distance lambda. Beta says for a distance of lambda the wave covers, there will be a phase change of 2 pi radian, right? So for lambda, the phase change is 2 pi. So 2 pi by lambda will be actually what? Phase change for unit distance, right? So its unit is radians per meter, right? Beta's unit is radians per meter. And if you multiply it with actually what? Distance, meter for R, it will give you how much is the phase change by the time the wave propagates a distance R. So in any way, you can either actually what, if you're comfortable thinking in terms of time period, you can think it in that way, or else if you're comfortable thinking in terms of wavelength, you can think in that. My intention is not to confuse you, right? I'm just telling you how to analyze these things, right? Or what are the different perspectives. So what you have to, the key takeaway from this should be, right, the propagation takes finite time, so I should use retarded current or whatever be the quantity. If I'm using voltage, retarded voltage, or if I'm using current density, I should use retarded current density. If it is charge density, retarded charge density, I should use that. And that can be written as I naught e power j omega T minus R by C, right? So this is the key takeaway from this. Other things I just told you to give you a better idea. So it's not simply a math, right? It has a meaning within it. That's what I wanted to tell. So this, I'll call this equation number 3. So this is what we have. And similarly, I can write this I will be actually what? This will be equal to dq by dt. So if you want, you can find q, right? This q will be nothing but what? Integral I dt. Q will be nothing but what? This integral I dt. If you want, you can find it out later on. we'll have to find it. We'll find it out. Right. So this is question number 4. Right. So are you clear with this? So I just gave you the system model, right? How I have placed the antenna, right? So why are we considering this retarded quantities, right? So any doubt so far, please feel free to ask. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask. Right. If you don't have any doubt, please type yes. No doubt, or you understood, or whatever. Please do respond. It's very crucial, very important, right? Very important aspect as far as thin linear antennas is concerned. Right. Shall I continue? If you have any doubt, please ask. Otherwise, type no doubt. I think for many, this online class is running in background itself, right? Fine, yeah. Thank you for responding. So now we'll move ahead and obtain the field expression as such, right? So to obtain the field expression, again, I'll draw the diagram once again, right? So I just, for exam, right, they may ask you to derive the field expression, or they may ask you to find out the radiation resistance, right? So that I am keeping the antenna along z-axis, antenna along this is actually what y-axis, and this is z-axis, x-axis, right? I'm keeping it along z-axis from minus L/2 to plus L/2. That is with center at origin. We are interested in field at some point, right? At some distance r, right? P. Length, right? And I'm going to find out the field due to this differential length dz, and then if I integrate that differential field along this length from z equal to minus L/2 to plus L/2, that will give me the current, the field expression, right? So how to find, how are we going to find the electric field? So maybe if charge is given, you know how to find the field intensity. You can use Coulomb's law, right? And you can extend Coulomb's law to find field due to a line charge, sheet of charge, a volume of charge, or whatever, right? But in this case, what is known to me is it is excited using a balanced transmission line, and the current is I0 e power j omega t, right? And the retarded current I is I0 e power j omega t minus r by c. The retarded current I is I0 e power j omega t minus r by c. So from this, how can I find out the electric field, right? And how can I find out the magnetic field? That is the question. So for that, right, we'll be making use of the concept of scalar electric potential and vector magnetic potential. So scalar electric potential normally you will write as V, and vector magnetic potential you'll write as vector A, right? Vector magnetic potential you'll write as vector A, right? So if V is known, you can always find electric field as negative gradient of potential, and if vector A is known, you can find magnetic field intensity as 1 by mu naught of del cross A. In fact, del cross A, right? In fact, B is actually what del cross A, right? I hope you remember B is actually what mu naught into H, and that is equal to del cross A, right? So I'll just discuss in detail, right? I'll just discuss in detail. You don't have to bother, right? So this is what we are going to do. So you should be able to write the scalar electric field and the vector magnetic field, magnetic potential, scalar electric potential and vector magnetic potential expression, and from that you can find E and H, right? So that's what we are going to do in next class, right? So we'll continue it in next class. So we'll wind it up today. Right, we'll wind it up today. So we'll be considering a very small length, and that may have a charge dq, right? And it will have some current IDL, right? We have to find magnetic field, the source for magnetic field, you know actually what ideal current element, right? A small conductor carrying current, and source for electric field is charge, right? So with that idea from the scratch itself, I'll teach you how to write the expression for scalar electric potential and vector magnetic potential, and how to take divergence of that and curl of the other one and obtain E and H expressions. That's what we are going to do in next class. So for the time being, I'll wind up this session today. If you have any doubt, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, right, please do let me know whether you understood something today. Like, is it clear? Is everything clear what we have discussed today? Very basics I discussed, but for sure, right, it's a very important topic, very important topic. There was not even a single university exam without this question, right? So if you are interested in university exam alone, also this is very important topic. Right. I've just given you an introduction to. Okay, I just given an introduction to this short electric dipole and how to find field of that. So we'll continue next class. Thank you so much for your patient listening. So you can leave if no doubt. All of you can leave. Right. Thank you.